On the surface, Get Even is something of a sci-fi suspense thriller, and while it follows some of the well-worn formulas of said genre, it is also crammed full of unique twists and concepts to make it totally fresh. In this first-person action game, the player controls Cole Black, the confused protagonist who wakes up in a memory he forgot he ever had. He and the player explore the deepest, darkest depths of his psyche to relive the past and retrieve answers, not just for his own peace of mind, but for an ambiguous guide by the name of Red, his only friend. Or is it foe? Get Even feels quintessentially British, like an episode of Black Mirror that should feature Sean Pertwee in it somewhere, which is amazing considering it was actually developed by a Polish company, Farm 51. They perfectly capture Britain's odour, its form in a way that you only really recognise if you live here or have lived in it. I had a similar reaction to the Chinese Room's Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, though Yorton was a rural, arguably more romantic version of the English countryside, and the studio behind it is, of course, based in Brighton, England. Get Even boasts a grimmer sort of look, a landscape of history and modernity, both preserved and dilapidated. It doesn't glamorise. The cast is relatively small. Cole Black, the game's protagonist, is voiced by Edward Dogliani, whom has lent his talents to a number of projects, though I'm embarrassed to admit I initially mistook him for Alistair Parker, the voice of Blackwall in Dragon Age Inquisition. I feel I should apologise profusely for my assumption, because Dogliani's performance in Get Even is, in my opinion, one of the finest vocal turns I've heard in a video game this year. Utterly believable. Never at any point did I lose grip on my suspension of disbelief. Red, too, was standout. Somehow he managed to be calm and threatening simultaneously. He's the kind of character that stirs up memories of that one strict teacher you had growing up, someone you felt respect for as well as a healthy fear. The vocal performances, though stellar, more importantly, feature a wide range of dialects from Liverpudlian to Irish and of course Brummie. At least one of the areas in the game takes place in Birmingham. This may not seem like a big deal, but it is very rare to hear the wide spectrum of accents that exists across the country, outside of Cockney London and the Queen's English. And like most British science fiction, the game doesn't take place in some alternate future that gleams and dazzles with technical innovation and prowess. It looks like the Britain we know and see all around us today, only it's supplemented with little technological innovations. A weapon, a camera, a headset. The science fiction aspects are accessible, modest, and relatable because of it. It is quite self-aware as well, which suits the virtual reality aspect quite nicely. The game often instructs you outright to stop playing as if you were doing just that, gaming. You're often urged to be sneaky or subtle, despite the fact you're carrying a firearm and, in some cases, surrounded by enemies. In a sense, you're being taken down a peg or two, required to cease fire in potential combat situations, which is relatively unusual in a game of this type. Just another small modification that freshens up the formula. What I truly loved about Get Even, though, besides all of this, is in the way it covets its truths, seductively revealing taste after taste of what might be going on. It's the job of a good mystery or thriller, which I suppose Get Even is, to lead you down the metaphorical path that twists and turns. Of course, it isn't until you reach the end of that path that you come to find out where it was you were headed. The mark of a good thriller is to simply reach the end in some semblance of tact, regardless of the journey. The destination of a great thriller, on the other hand, is like a bolt of lightning, an epiphany whereby you understand exactly how and why it is you reached the end in the way that you did, even if the path appeared dark and bewildering before. There are many threads at work in Get Even that lead you to many conclusions throughout, but come together, for me at least, to form something else entirely by the end. The destination is a revelation, and one that is as sensible as it is impactful. Using fractured memory and a hub of sorts that compartmentalizes information and data unearthed, the game explores themes of universal ideas of justice, as well as the kinds of truths we seek for ourselves and for others. The game quite cleverly plays with the idea of reality too. This weaving of threads and mystery at varying thematic junctions is helped along by its score. As a long-time fan of Olivier de Rivière, even I was frankly stunned by his work in Get Even. It is powerful, but this power drives every emotion and feeling with equal purpose and success. Whether it chills the blood, or sets you on edge, whether it lulls you into a sense of comfort, or saddens you deeply, it holds you there, suspended in that feeling. De Rivière controls the player completely, guiding them with his musical score, and he does this not on some basic level. It's rooted deeply in play. This is perhaps the first time his work has been allowed to not just set the scene or tone, which he also does beautifully, but to take the player by the hand and draw them into whatever wonderful or odious secrets the game has in store, much like the well-drawn narrative. Sounds will stake their claim, merge into a rhythm, into music, then gain speed until you feel you can't take any more. In other parts, it tiptoes in so quietly you barely even notice before you feel the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. The music dances on occasion, dips and peaks and moves depending on where you are and what you're doing, as if it's playing with you, the player of the game. This soundtrack is not just nice to listen to. It tests the waters of interactivity by daring to step out of the background and into play. This is a truly interactive soundscape in a game not designed for that sole purpose, like a rhythm game, for example. I recently read an article somewhere which described Get Even as a game you should be playing but likely aren't. I'm going to echo that sentiment. Get Even doesn't step too far out of the box in that it delivers its experience in a way we have seen in many guises before. And though you could say I am borderline fanatic about innovation and place great value on titles that try something new, sometimes to detrimental effect, I do place equal value in experiences that retread old ground, yet do it in such a way that you're reminded why you loved a trope or standard so much to begin with. Farm 51's game exists somewhere in the space between entertainment and creativity and balances these without having to sacrifice one or the other. I can easily say I had a great time with it, and I'm glad I can talk about it here, as I'm afraid most people I know haven't heard of Get Even, let alone played it for any length of time, which is a real shame. As such, I really hope their new VR Chernobyl project does well. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this short video. I want to say a thank you here to Mark Brown of Game Maker's Toolkit and Chris Franklin of Errant Signal, both exceptional channels linked below that I urge you to check out if you haven't already, for sharing my channel on Twitter, as well as alerting me to other fantastic channels I had no idea existed, also linked below. Feel free to share your thoughts and comments about Get Even here on my Facebook page or on Twitter, the links to which are also down below. I try to read and respond to as many comments as I can. I'll see you soon.